Let's look at what we call quadratic equations. These are not difficult, don't be afraid. Let's start with the property a multiplied by b is equal to 0. We have two numbers here. A is one number and b is another number. The dot there means we are multiplying these two numbers. So when you multiply two numbers and you get an answer of 0, what that should mean is one of the numbers should be equal to 0, or both of them should be equal to 0. But maybe we don't know which one is equal to 0 and which one is not equal to 0, but definitely one of them should be equal to 0, or both should be equal to 0. So it's either A is equal to 0 or B is equal to 0. That is the only time we can get a product of 0. So please take note, this only works when the product is equal to 0. So when you multiply numbers and you get a 0, then one of the numbers should be equal to 0, or both the numbers should be equal to 0 if there are two. So let's use that property to solve this equation. This equation says x plus 2 is multiplied by x minus 1, and they give us an answer of 0. That can only happen when x plus 2 is 0 or x minus 1 is 0. So we write x plus 2 is equal to 0 or x minus 1 is equal to 0. Then these are two simple equations that we solve. Collecting like terms, that means we move the plus 2 to the other side, so you will get x is equal to negative 2 for this one. Then for that one, if you move the negative 1 to the other side, you will get x is equal to 1. Therefore, for this question, x is negative 2 or 1. Take note, we use or. We do not use and, because there is no way x can be two different values at the same time. So it's either x is negative 2 or x is 1. If you substitute these numbers back into that equation, if you take x as negative 2, you will get the first bracket x plus 2 giving you 0. And so that 0 there multiplied by the other number will therefore give you your 0 there. Okay, let's look at another example. We are using the same property if a times b is equal to 0. So remember, if a times b is equal to 0, then a is equal to 0 or b is equal to 0. In this example, we are multiplying x by x plus 7, and the answer is 0, which means one of them is 0 or both of them are 0. So it's either x is equal to 0 or x plus 7 is equal to 0. This is the only time we can get a product of a 0. One of them should be equal to 0, if not both of them. Okay, the first equation is already done, so it means x is equal to 0. So if we put x equal to 0 into that equation, then the left-hand side will be equal to the right-hand side. If you solve the other equation, x plus 7 is equal to 0, move the 7 to the other side, it becomes negative 7. So if we put into that equation, if we replace x with a negative 7 and simplify, then the left-hand side will be 0 and the right-hand side will be 0. So your answer in this question is x is equal to 0 or minus 7. All right, we write that like that. You don't only need to multiply two numbers to get 0. You can multiply 3 numbers and get 0. You can multiply 4 numbers and get 0. In this example here, if a times b times c is equal to 0, then it means either a is equal to 0 or b is equal to 0 or c is equal to 0. It follows one of them should be 0 or two of them should be 0 or all of them should be 0, so that we can get an answer of 0 when we multiply. Here we are multiplying 3 numbers. We are multiplying x by x minus 7 by 2x plus 5, and that gives us an answer of 0, which means one of these numbers should be 0 or all of them should be 0. either x is equal to 0 or x minus 7 is equal to 0 or 2x plus 5 is equal to 0. So you form three equations. Do not try and remove the brackets. I know you know how to FOIL and to distribute. That will not help you because you'll end up with a very, very big and frightening equation, a cubic equation actually, because you'll end up with x to the power of 3. It's factorized already, so just make use of the factors. Each of the factors is put equal to 0 and you solve. The first one is already x equal to 0, so that one is done. The second one, if you solve this, take the negative 7 to the other side. That will give us x is equal to positive 7. Then for this one here, 2x plus 5 is equal to 0. Take the 5 to the right-hand side. It becomes negative 5. Then divide by 2. So it's 2x will be equal to negative 5. Then divide by 2 both sides. So this one will give you x is equal to negative 5 over 2. Okay, just leave it like that, minus 5 over 2. And then you can write your answers down here now. So x is equal to 0 or 7 or minus 5 over 2. So x can be any one of these numbers, but not all of them at the same time. It's any one of them. X is either 0, which means if you put wherever you see x in the equation, put 0. You will get the left-hand side equal to the right-hand side. Or you put in the 7. If you put a 7 into that equation, wherever you see x, the left-hand side will be 0 and the right-hand side will be 0. If you do the same thing for negative 5 over 2, the left-hand side will be equal to the right-hand side. Here's another example. Here we have x, which is multiplied by 3x minus 5 all squared. 3x minus 5 squared means 3x minus 5 multiplied by 3x minus 5. So you need to open the two brackets so that you don't make a mistake. So that is what it means. Now there are three factors that we are multiplying by each other, and they interestingly give us a 0, which means either x is equal to 0 or 3x minus 5 is equal to 0 or 3x minus 5 is equal to 0. So it looks like I'm repeating myself. So I can just stop there, and we normally write twice because this is going to repeat. So 3x minus 5 is equal to 0 twice. Okay, if you solve the first one, it's done already, x is equal to 0. The second one, move the negative 5 to the other side, it becomes a 5. And then divide by 3, both sides. So x will be equal to 5/3. Our answer, therefore, is x is equal to 0 or 5 over 3. That 5 over 3 is repeated. You could say 5 over 3 or 5 over 3, but that sounds funny. The best thing is to say 5 over 3, just write twice, because that should repeat.